Hello, everybody. I am Elise. This is sort of a prelude to my criticisms of Colleen Ballinger's alleged predatorial behavior. I did upload the second part of this video about 3 days ago or so. I took it down because I wanted to add this and make a few things clear. Now, this horror show is still unfolding. And there are still many more experiences that are coming to light, and people are coming out to talk about this where they did not feel they could talk about this. Now, I want to make myself clear here. I don't wish to sensationalize this. I don't want to say, well, I was right, or this is what I thought, or anything. This isn't a crisis to exploit, because this is a crisis. It's a crisis in the real world. It's a crisis on YouTube. And the problem is there is a lot of psychological and emotional injury, and it is important that it is dealt with, it is discussed, and hopefully it is at some point investigated one way or another, either by YouTube or by law enforcement if it's appropriate, if this is such a problem, because we can't keep having emotionally injured and psychologically injured people keep sustaining this pain and suffering from content creators. And I think that it's important that people understand that there is also a clear divide between who has power, who has money, who has influence, and who doesn't. And that content creators of this magnitude need to hold themselves at a very high standard. And I'm not saying that not everybody else should. I think that there should be a high level of standard when addressing people, when interacting with fans, and so on. None of Colleen's characters are kid friendly. Not her family channel, not her Miranda channel, never was, never will be. But that's who she appeals to, and unfortunately, allegedly, she entangled a number of minors in her inappropriate behavior and her poor character and terrible judgment and absolutely no boundaries whatsoever. This is completely unacceptable. Now, I do use the word alleged. That does not mean that I don't side with or believe the people who were victimized by her. I believe that people have experienced what they have experienced, and they are coming forward. I don't believe at this point that this is a smear campaign against Colleen Ballinger. I think that there are legitimate complaints. There are legitimate things that happen that should not have happened. And there, like I said, there is allegedly some grooming and some predatorial behavior, and minors were placed in situations they should not have been placed in inappropriately. And I have no idea what else is about to come, but as far as I understand, I mean, it seems like Colleen is in a lot of trouble, especially perhaps with the state of her sponsorships and channels. I don't know legally. I don't know personally. Sometimes these content creators do the most egregious things, and then they're able to sneak back in and rebuild. I think that Colleen's situation is a terrible symptom of a larger problem. on these platforms and society, and the fact that there is this divide between who has power and influence and even immunity and who doesn't is pretty clear. This is why it troubles me that people will go out of their way to break the law, to harass people, to harass victims, in an attempt to silence them or to teach them a lesson, to harass people who speak out against Colleen Ballinger's nonsense. And I have no idea why people want to risk their freedom, risk their future, risk their lives, risk whatever they have to damage other people, to potentially kill people through uh, through swats gone wrong, through illegal or fake swatting and emergency calls. Now, I am not a legal expert. I do not have a good grasp of the law around this situation. I have read as much as I can and understood by a layperson that even according to this piece, with the legal implications of swatting from this lawfareblog.com, that though there is no, and I'm quoting here, though there is no federal anti-swatting law, the government has prosecuted alleged swatters on charges including obstruction of justice via destruction of evidence. You can click on case numbers there, via retaliation, access device fraud, interstate threats or extortion, computer misuse, and the malicious conveying of false information. To date, the only federal law specifically outlining the malicious use of technology for swatting is the Truth in Caller ID Act, which makes it, again, quote, unlawful for any person to cause any caller identification service to knowingly transmit misleading or inaccurate caller identification information with the intent to defraud, cause harm, or wrongfully obtain anything of value. Now, what would be the value of swatting Colleen's detractors? Now, in their mind, a victim coming forward with their experiences would be a detractor in their mind. As far as I'm concerned, they are a victim of a possible crime. They're a victim of being used. They're a victim of being placed in mature situations in which they should not be. They're minors. They were influenced to act behaviorally against other people. There is a pattern of this with Colleen as we hear about Adam's experiences and other people's experiences and her silence in general, but specifically about this issue with superfans going out of their way to break the law or to potentially break the law to harm people who say anything against Colleen Ballinger. Now, if we look at, now I can't individualize Stan's experiences. I don't know technically who they are, what they are, how they operate. I'm assuming that they are people who follow Colleen. They're probably stalkerish themselves. And I would be very, very worried about people like that. But I also believe minors and young adults have been influenced to do things for Colleen or to say things on Colleen's behalf, to defend Colleen. And I think there is this segment that is quite unfortunate because these people are being influenced to defame people, to harm people who speak out. Now, making these false swatting calls and everything, while there is no, again, understanding the information on this site before you, which will be linked in the description below, by the way, that though there is no anti-swatting law, the government has prosecuted alleged swatters. Now, there isn't this law, but they will still go after them in different ways, depending on how um, the fake SWAT caller calls, for what reason, and so on. Now, there might be some of these laws, anti-swatting laws or fake 911 calls within the state, and may be charged, with a misdemeanor simply. But if it crosses state lines, then it becomes a bigger problem, and a person has the potential of facing a number of federal charges, according to this compilation of the legal implications of swatting. And what I think that some stands and fans don't understand when they engage in this behavior, that there are real life implications, and that's the implications that they put themselves at risk of losing their freedom, losing resources, losing future opportunities to interact with other people, to risking freedom. I mean, you could be in prison, charged and imprisoned for these things, goes on your record, and it might affect obtaining future resources or employment and things in the future. And what a crappy thing to happen to a person who may not be mature enough to understand the consequences of this, to have this happen to them. And to me, then the other real life implications of this is that people do die of heart attacks. People die because they are scared when they have a fucking gun pointed at their head from a law enforcement, because a fake call was made. It's not funny. It's not getting back at anybody. Okay? This has grave consequences. This behavior has grave consequences. And not only that, I mean, the psychological damage that it can cause a person who is fake swatted, and abusing and misusing resources that could be better used to help people who are really in peril and crisis. For what? To defend someone who doesn't give a shit about them? Colleen Ballinger does not care who gets swatted. Colleen Ballinger does not care that her stans and fans and whatever possibly are the ones making these calls and threatening people. Given Colleen's behavior, I wouldn't be surprised if she had any other kind of influence in this, but I have no proof, and it's pretty extreme to say at this point. But one has to wonder. One has to wonder. And I believe that some of these attempts or actual calls are being investigated. I know that Adam McIntyre had put out a video that he had to make a police report about some of the threats and stuff that was going on with him as a result of sharing his experiences. And, these kind of fake calls, they're investigated very clearly. This isn't something that's just going to be passed over. This is a serious violation of the law in terms of what this is classified as. And of course, again, I will reiterate, Colleen Ballinger doesn't give a shit. That is my strong opinion, because if she did, the very least she could have done was to come out and tell people, don't do this behavior. Just don't do it. Just don't do it, because of the devastating consequences. She should ideally come out and address these accusations and things like that, but I would imagine she's advised not to at this point, or that she's processing it. And that immediate relief, unfortunately, is not usually availed to victims. There's a process, and it's unfair, and it takes a long time, and victims are often vilified because they would rather believe a wholesome image of their celebrity or person rather than believing things can be so horrible. And that is another form of betrayal that Colleen has bestowed upon her fandom, is that she gave this image of innocence and concern, and that she did her level best in some respects to separate herself from her Miranda character because it would not fit in with her character of her family channel, and as it was addressed, I believe, by Adam McIntyre, that it seemed that her character the character was already on the way out, so to speak, but it didn't fit the present day circumstances, especially since the pandemic, the death of the murder of George Floyd. I'm going to say murder. And all of the revelations that have come out about the inequality and stuff. And I won't say in revelations because it's been an ongoing problem. And she probably saw how that wasn't going to fit into her business model, because I can guarantee that Colleen doesn't care about inequality. She doesn't care about injustice. She's never cared about older women or older women in comedy. And that was through her Miranda saying goodbye or whatever video. Nonsense, such crap. She has never, ever been a role model for any other woman. Now, I can't speak for other women who felt like they were represented by Colleen, but Colleen does not have that worldview. She did say herself she grew up sheltered. She doesn't have that worldview. She doesn't have that level of care and empathy and understanding and even compassion for other people's suffering. She was too busy making fun of people with these differences, making fun of people who did not align with her vision of what a model perfect person is like. Okay. And again, I want to stress she placed monumental responsibility. And I'll say monumental. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's more like she placed a tremendous amount of responsibility on minors for their emotional support to help her get through her business, used people along the way, allegedly, because if I don't say it, there's going to be a problem, and so on. Now, why would fans and stans want to see themselves as part of Colleen's inner circle when they are not? Because I will guarantee Colleen is lawyered up. Colleen has the resources. Colleen has the power. Colleen has a lot on her side that a lot of her fans and stans do not. There is a clear inequality between Colleen and her fans and stans, monetarily, socially, geographically, and so on. Why would anybody run to the defense of this human being is beyond me. There are people in this world who can use that compassion and care and time rather than Colleen Ballinger. Colleen Ballinger can get a therapist. Colleen Ballinger can get a lawyer. But a lot of the people, I can almost guarantee, that are fighting for her will not be able to at least socially survive federal charges of misusing systems to harm other people who have a different opinion about Colleen. With that understood, I'd like to move on to the video that I had taken down and that I'm re-uploading. And just a reminder that everything I state in here is my opinion, my perception of the facts and experiences, my thoughts, and strictly commentary based on those things. There's no need to swat me. I'm in a good place in my life. I am fine. I am just concerned about the crisis we're having here on YouTube with greater content creators or content creators across the board emotionally and psychologically injuring their fan base. This has to be addressed. Good morning, everybody. I'm Elise as Another Truth on YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I do appreciate the time that you have taken to listen to something that I have to say. I know this background here is quite extreme, but I have more questions than I have knowledge about. And I think I have really struggled to make this type of video because there's some serious allegations against Colleen Ballinger as it is. I want to continue on that track of saying alleged, although I will say it is my opinion and it's my perspective that I believe Adam McIntyre's experience from his point of view. I think it's worth examining, and it's definitely worth keeping in mind when examining this whole Colleen Ballinger situation. I would actually call it a crisis at this point because there are a lot of people who have been hurt who are coming forward. There are a lot of stands out there breaking the law to get back at Adam and other people of YouTube prominence speaking out against Colleen and trying to completely cancel people's right to express their experiences with either working or watching Colleen's content. Now, recently I reviewed personally in my own time the 2020 video she made in response to the stuff coming out of Adam McIntyre's expressed experience at that time as an adolescent, and it was during the pandemic where a lot of people were finally starting to hold certain behaviors from certain people accountable. And I think that her address was superficial. I think that there are some things that make sense, that when we're teenagers, we do stupid things, and yeah, we grow out of that. And I would think that that was more of an extension of how she was raised, perhaps, her upbringing, her whatever life that she had at that time. That's what the comments. But let us put things in their proper space. A woman in her 30s, okay, they just don't grow out of things. They're already grown up. They should already have a strong sense of boundaries. Not everybody has. I understand that. I was there. I didn't do this shit, but um, everybody has their boundaries. Everybody has their um, a healthy person anyway would have a set of boundaries, would be able to understand that associating with minors to the extent that she has is grossly inappropriate. So I think that she really didn't address that in a meaningful way. And I think I get it. I understand that she wanted to respect the fact that Adam was a minor. That could have been something that her team, whether it was her legal team or business team or whatever, said, just be careful with that. See, I'm reluctant to even go back on some of the things that Adam experienced because that was his experience as a minor. I only can go based on what he is saying as an adult and not exploiting his experiences to bring up points about Colleen because Colleen's inappropriate behavior is enough to address on itself. And going back to that 2020 video, so yes, and she kind of conflated these incidences as sort of a matter of growing up and learning. And I think it was grossly disgusting and unfair to do that. These were separate, different incidences in separate times in her life. I think the mature and responsible thing is to address it one by one and to um, come out with more of the truth rather than saying, oh, it's just a matter of me learning and growing and moving on. No, no. Maybe Colleen in her mind thought, well, I can just grow on and not hold myself accountable for the things that I did in my past. People will forget it because now I'm a mother and I'm basically untouchable. No, it doesn't work that way. Motherhood is a responsibility, but that doesn't mean that we are separated from listening to our children's experiences. Doesn't mean that we're not going to be held responsible. Being a mother doesn't make a person automatically an angel, in my opinion. And I know this from experience, okay? And I think that's where she was coming from that. And being a mother, you would think you would have greater empathy for other people's children, but it's not the case. Her family is important to her and that everybody else must serve her and her family. That is pretty understood in general, and even from her own words in this video. But through the other experiences of people who worked from her, it's made it much more clear and it's consistent with how Colleen generally treats people and sees other people. She has not moved from this entitled um, Caucasian woman experience. She thinks she is above it all. Okay. I will remind you, I am a middle aged Caucasian woman myself. I am not exempt either. Just because I am from a particular political position, just because I have some of my mental health in order. No. Colleen doesn't get to erase things. Maybe as a teenager, probably, but still there was damage done. I think that if I'm watching some of Adam McIntyre's videos, he doesn't gloss it over by the fact that he's older and more mature. His apology videos, he didn't have to do this because he was well, he did, but he was groomed to act a certain way. He was, in my opinion, influenced to the point where he also believed that Colleen Ballinger actually loved and cared about him, because she created that kind of environment, and she did that to be able to buy loyalty no matter what. But Adam McIntyre and his videos have made quite sensible, calm, and heartfelt apologies, holding himself accountable for his behavior, even though he was the one who was influenced and groomed by an adult to indulge in these kind of behaviors. He has a lot of introspection for someone who is 20 years old. And you know what? That's probably ageist to say there, but that is really powerful. And that's a really powerful part of the healing process, is to be and hold ourselves accountable. Now, it doesn't mean people have to accept our apologies. People don't have to believe us. But if we hold ourselves accountable in the right way, and I know this from experience, I'm going through this even in my own life. I'm not a predator, I'm not a groomer or anything like that. But it is very, very healing, and it makes us less judgmental. It makes us understand that where we have to stop the cycle of nonsense, and knowing where to stop that. Okay. So that is the difference between a, a 31 or a 32-year-old woman and a 20-year-old man, young man, in this situation. Um, a, you know, Colleen Ballinger's silence is very telling. I'm not the only one who has said this, but this is my own conclusion coming from this. Now, there could be a lot of factors into this. I don't know. I don't know. It does tell me that there's stuff going on, um, and maybe she's working through it with her business managers or her um, lawyer or whatever. But I think what she could do at this point, what she could have done, aside from all of this, even if it puts her own business on the line, which she already has done because she has used people, used people's love and adoration, and a lot of things to get to the point in her life, and then she kind of throws it back in their face. But what she could have done is at least tell the stands to back off. Okay, I mean, isn't what haters back off is supposed to mean? Well, no, because Miranda's above the law too, and she can be as disgusting as she wants without any repercussions. And that's definitely what, I mean, not definitely, but that's what's clear in even Colleen's own behavior. And of course, Miranda is an extension of Colleen, because rarely can an artist really separate themselves from their characters. And maybe this is just my own uh, older education coming through. Who knows? I've only, in my experience of reading literature and poetry and workshopping these, that very few artists separate themselves from their characters. That their characters could be an extension of experiences that they had or whatever, but rarely have they been able to separate those two things. So I don't know. What Colleen could have done is tell the stand, stop breaking the law. Your life isn't worth defending me, um, and so on. And I would agree and say to her stands, don't break the law to go after people who speak against Colleen. People have a right to. There's a problem. If you're breaking the law, she's not going to bail you out. She's not going to help you. Um, get through some of the legal ramifications of using law enforcement illegally to attack opponents, um, it's not going to help. It's really not going to help stands when they need law enforcement, but law enforcement are going to be too afraid to um, help them because of previous false calls. I don't know. But there's so many ramifications, so many consequences, and the consequences are going to be harsher for the stands at this point because they don't have the power Colleen has. They don't have the protection Colleen has. They don't have the resources Colleen has to defend themselves. When that energy, that angry energy, could be really done by fighting injustice because we have a human rights crisis going on. People's rights are being trampled upon. The divide between the haves and the have-nots are greater. And believe me, Colleen is a contributor to flaunting all of the hard work, not only that she has done, but that her loyalists have done without a lot of benefit for themselves, including having their own identity and being able to break away from her to do something else with their lives that is more meaningful. And that's what it comes down to. Colleen's in a serious amount of trouble at this point. Now, that could mean financially, it could mean socially. I do think she did prey upon her fans to give her undying loyalty, devotion, and their time. And she didn't feel like she had to compensate because, oh, they love me. They want to do this for me. And yeah. And I think, sending unused underwear from a box that she got from Forever 21, I think that she didn't think about it because I think, like with anything else, she doesn't think. She doesn't care who she hurts along the way. She doesn't have any sense of boundaries whatsoever. And she should have checked with the ages because she speaks to children and she speaks to children in her videos. She doesn't make that distinction because it would impact her views and her advertising and everything like that, especially when YouTube implemented the children's protections, which is quite a joke because people like Colleen can circumvent that. And I mean, although it's not ideally made for children, she might have ticked that off, but it she does put a lot. She trauma dumps on minors. She trauma dumps on anybody who will listen, and she puts a tremendous amount of responsibility, or she has, on minors. And I think to some extent, her own children to keep her family channel going, to be a part of that more wholesome identity. But it's not wholesome, it's an act like everything else. I don't doubt that she cares about her children. She certainly loves her children, and those are the only children that she loves. She doesn't care about the stands. And I can't speak for everybody who has been touched by Colleen virtually in one way or another, um, who has either been manipulated or supported. But I have seen nothing in Colleen's material to suggest that she cares. And I understand childhood cancer is something close to her heart, but there is no um, there is no accountability as to where this money was actually going. She could have easily set it up so that all proceeds go to um, the company she is supporting. Or, sorry, not the company, the organization she is supporting. That could have easily been done. I don't know what kind of business move this was. I don't know if it was for tax reasons or so on, but people have questions because I think that the money she raised from this doesn't seem like enough to buy a very expensive mansion. Um, and but I don't know. I don't know if she was using that money to invest with to make certain business moves, because that's where it comes down to her entertainment alone. Like her main character was already dying, so to speak, and I thought that Miranda Sings was gone for good because Miranda Sings hadn't uploaded in a few months, and I thought, well, maybe, I thought maybe she finally put this character to rest because she's relying on her family channel. But it seems like um, she was even using people even before that, especially Adam, to keep Miranda alive. And I don't know anything really about the inappropriate tweet but that Miranda had made. But I mean, Miranda makes a lot of inappropriate and suggestive discussions and talks and everything that it's not a character for children to engage with, not even adolescents. Um, the arrogance, the predatorial behavior of Miranda, I mean, that should have died a long time ago. Miranda should have like died a long time. Not died, but like the character she should have just phased it out. And she probably wanted to have a more wholesome family content and go beyond that, to do more meaningful work. And it's weird because I think the last video she uploaded was about this big audition. Um, so maybe that's where the silence also is coming from, the fact that whatever her stands say is whatever her stands say. Sorry, whatever detractors say is whatever detractors say, and that she's going on to bigger and better things. But all along, the building blocks of this success, of this getting, I don't know, this evolution of her life has been built on the trust and love of her fans. That's how this thing keeps going. And her using fans and employing them poorly and not giving them the support that they need, because the employees are leaving their families when they go on tour. People are spending their time on the basis that they want to emotionally support this character. They want to be a part of something bigger. And, for some people, it might be just a way to get something on a resume. It might be, they might think that they might have a way to get into the field to do their craft or something. But Colleen had no intention of developing any of her staff. I believe, in my own opinion, this is just my opinion, like everything I said here, again, using people for their emotional, creative, and internal resources at any age, to advance herself. And when I say at any age, I mean, I'm just thinking about Adam when he was like a very, very young preteen and adolescent, um, being, kind of in this circle where he should not have been. He was far too young to be a part of this Colleen thing. And it just seems to me she preys on targeted communities as well to advance that. I'm not surprised, given that Colleen doesn't have very respect for certain targeted communities, especially LGBTQIA plus communities, people of color, and she constantly throws what she has back into the face of others. Oh, I know. I'm grateful for what I have. That's a fucking amount of bullshit right there. Okay? She's not grateful. She just takes what she can and runs with it. Now, her family may not see her as that, but you have to understand there are people who experience life differently. Okay? Who aren't going to agree with her, and they're going to question behavior. Colleen is not immune from criticism. She's not, to me, she's not being harshly criticized because she's an older female comedian or whatever, however she addressed herself. If Colleen actually cared about women's rights, she would be out there fighting for that. Um, She would not put herself down in public. She would not put down women of color. She would not um, make comments about overweight people. She would not make impressions on impressionable minors about body shape or body type or whatever. I mean, that is so grossly abusive and inappropriate. Um, you know, people really, YouTube has to clamp down on this, but people really have to start getting smart about who they're supporting. Take a step back, because this isn't the way to get into anything. Okay, this isn't a way. This isn't Colleen Ballinger is not, in my opinion, a positive role model of respect and perseverance. There is nothing that she has done that has been based on anything related to social justice. It might be something that she holds on to hold on to whatever she has left. She isn't the only content creator. At the time she made that 2020 video that was doing that, you should always question their value, where equity falls into their lives and creativity. And, you know, and understand that there is a strong inequality between the people who support Colleen and Colleen herself, and what she has amassed from all of this loyalty and care and undying loyalty and free labor that she got. This is dangerous. And we have to hold people like this accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable. Adam really did a wonderful thing by saying, "This is what I have done because of be, my own." He, I believe, he was really felt really guilty and really sad about a lot of things, and I fucking blame Colleen for that, because she influenced that child when he was a child, to be on her side of things. Okay, she put an unbelievable and tremendous amount of responsibility of her well-being, her protection, on more vulnerable people and targeted people, because she is selfish and dangerous, in my opinion. And um, she has, and the fact that she has not come out and said anything against her stance, attacking one of her victims, it's the red flag of the biggest order. And I hope personally that if this is not a matter of criminal law, that people will start, accounting for their own resources, their own time, and look into other legal matters to pursue this. I'm not saying go out and please don't um, make frivolous suits. Don't block up the courts or anything. But I think something like this should be investigated. I think some stuff is going on. Maybe it's already being investigated and we just don't know. But I hope people will take action where they need to take action, especially if their labor and time, or they felt groomed or abused at any level, find out what resources and what recourse they can take uh, to remedy that, to rectify it. Um, I'm kind of waiting for that. I'm kind of waiting, but this stuff is still unfolding. This whole Colleen situation is still, this whole tremendous mess is still unfolding. The great and huge impact, it's because she had created a more wholesome identity. She fell back to some of her, maybe her original teachings as a child of how to be a model woman or a model person or whatever. And I think that in itself is a whole act, to be able to shield herself from being attacked. Just because she's a mother doesn't give her automatic insight. There are sometimes people who become parents that say, oh my God, you begin to have that. But the fact of the matter is that doesn't absolve her. She's not a princess, a fairy princess in an ivory tower. It might seem that way, but she's not. She's a human being who is supposed to be accountable for her actions and address these things. She had crossed the line and damaged, perhaps psychologically damaged, definitely psychologically injured a lot of people, and she did it on a mass scale, in my opinion. And I think she really needs to come clean about this. And she should really make the effort to at least tell the stands to back off. If she has any ounce of integrity or credibility or anything left, at least she could do that so that more people's lives aren't ruined on her behalf. I doubt she will, but we'll see what happens and what is unfolded as time goes on, as more people come forward. If anybody else is coming forward, I know other people are sharing their experiences. And, this is just a symptom. This is just I wouldn't say just but she is a symptom of a larger problem. That doesn't mean she shouldn't hold herself accountable or be held accountable for her alleged predatorial behavior here. And I know those words are harsh and it's difficult, but there are receipts about certain discussions that were had. There are receipts for some of the stuff that she was having other people do, for what she has said to other people. And I'm sure more things will be coming out as they happen. And, whatever is, the truth must come out one way or another. And I hope that it is looked into and investigated by whoever needs to investigate it, whoever is willing to do that from the people who are affected. I think people deserve to be paid for their work. I don't think people should be volunteering for work for endless amounts of time. And the situation is far more complicated than Colleen has suggested in that 2020 video. And that 2020 video is laughable. That 2020 video does not hold herself accountable. Like I said before, she kind of mashed them all these things together and say, I should not have done that. I should move on now. We should forget about it. These are horrible things said against me. And instead of empathizing why people might have said that about her, instead of taking it as a mature person and working through it, or working through a therapist or a lawyer or something where she getting advice to be able to come clean and to do that and not use her position as a mother and a wealthy Caucasian mother to use as a way to use as a means of credibility to overpower her victims' experiences. Everything she said in that 2020 video. Now, some of it might be true. So, there are some things in there that are true. She is a mother. She was a teenager when she said that. That doesn't make any excuses. Adam had apologized for a lot of things that he took part of, and that may not be the end of it for him. And I think that, and yeah, maybe he's had harsh criticism for that, but if you look at what Colleen has done, you can understand where he's coming from, and he has a better chance at coming out of this psychologically intact because he's taken accountability for his own behavior, even though he was allegedly groomed and preyed upon by Colleen, both with volunteer work, with suggestive messaging, inappropriate dialogue, putting a tremendous amount of responsibility on a minor, indulging him in, not indulging him, but including him in discussions that are far too mature for him in terms of how to deal with her life and more. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely inappropriate and ridiculous. And it goes to show you how much the incredible amount lack of respect that she has for targeted people and their experiences. She is not a social justice martyr. She does not care about women. She does not care about people in the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. She is not a friend to these people. She's not a friend to this community. Her behavior is disgusting. Her behavior is questionable. Her behavior has psychologically injured a lot of people, and her silence is sort of the axe to the neck move. And we'll see what happens at this point. We'll see what happens at this point and how this unfolds. But reminder, everything that I've said in here is based on my opinions, perspectives, and thoughts and some of the facts that have come out on this. I use allegedly because it's just a better way of saying it at this point, and to hold myself accountable for the things that I say, because calling someone a predator, I mean, in my opinion, I think she is a predator. I think what she has done was quite predatorial, by the very definition of it. But it is my opinion. And I, a lot of this stuff has been alleged, and that's it. That's it. And if Stans plan to use the law to hurt me or anybody else, you're just ruining your own lives. And trust me, I will fight with everything that I have. And what I have to fight back. Don't even do it. Don't even use public resources here to attack me. Don't use the public resources to attack anybody else, because I will tell you, making false claims to get people swatted, to inadvertently injure people and even kill people, or things like that, it's going to be on you. And Colleen's not going to give a shit about you when everything falls apart for you. I hope you will take that advice very seriously. Anyway, I need to go. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Bye for now.